Rome. For over 2,000 years, the history of the West was defined by a single city. It was a civilization that conquered the known world, wrote the laws that still govern us today, and engineered a legacy that outlasted its own gods. It is easy to look at the ruins and assume that this dominance was inevitable, but it wasn't. In the beginning, Rome was nothing more than a few mud huts on a marshy riverbank. It was a small, fragile settlement surrounded by rival kingdoms that were older, wealthier, and far more powerful. By all accounts, it should have been wiped off the map. In this video, I am going to tell the entire story of that survival. We will move from the myths of the founding through the brutal efficiency of the Republic and the emperors all the way to the defiant survival of the East and the fall of Constantinople in 1453. But a story this large takes time. So whether you are working, relaxing, or drifting off to sleep, you can simply listen. Just let the journey carry you through this amazing history. The visuals are there for context, but you don't need to watch. So settle in, get comfortable, and take a deep breath. This is a journey through power, ambition, and legacy. This is the story of Rome. Around 1200 BC, the world surrounding the Mediterranean looked very different from the one that later generations would know. Great powers that had dominated the Bronze Age for centuries were collapsing one after another. The palaces of Mycenae and Chios in Greece had been reduced to ash. The fortress city of Troy, long immortalized in epic tales, had fallen and vanished from history. Even Egypt, the most enduring of ancient kingdoms, had withdrawn from much of its influence beyond the Nile after fighting off waves of invaders from the sea. Trade routes that had once connected Egypt, the Ion, and the Near East began to fail. Ports emptied, cities declined, and populations scattered into smaller, more isolated communities. Italy's geography would shape everything that followed. It stretched deep into the heart of the Mediterranean like a natural bridge between Europe and Africa, divided by mountains and surrounded by fertile coasts. The Alps guarded its northern boundary, isolating it from Central Europe, while the Apennine Mountains ran down its spine, separating valleys and plains, but never completely dividing them. These features created both barriers and opportunities. Shelter from invasion, but enough open land to support agriculture and trade. At the center of the peninsula, the Tiber River flowed calmly from the Apennines to the Tyrrhenian Sea. Its waters offered a route for travel and transport, while its banks provided rich farmland and easy access to the coast. This central position, not too far north or south, would later prove crucial. Whoever controlled the lands around the Tiber could reach both seas and command the heart of the Italian peninsula. By this time, small communities had begun to take root along the river valleys and hilltops. Archaeological evidence shows scattered villages of farmers and herders using simple bronze tools. They built huts from timber and clay and surrounded them with small pastures for livestock. The people who lived here were not part of any empire or unified state. They spoke local dialects, practiced small-scale trade, and worshipped local deities tied to rivers, forests, and the land itself. Among these early peoples were three main groups who would shape Italy's story: the Latins, the Sabines, and the Etruscans. The Latins occupied the central plains of what would later become Latium, the region around the Tiber and the site of Rome's eventual founding. They were primarily agricultural, organized into tribes and families, and lived in hilltop villages for protection. The Sabines lived farther inland in the central Apennines. They were hardy mountain people known for their pastoral way of life. To the north were the Etruscans, who stood apart from their neighbors in language, culture, and sophistication. The Etruscans appeared suddenly in the archaeological record around the 9th century BC. With a culture to the north were the Etruscans, who stood apart from their neighbors in language, culture, and sophistication. The Etruscans appeared suddenly in the archaeological record around the 9th century BC with a culture already distinct and advanced. Unlike the simple pastoral tribes of central Italy, they built wealthy, walled city-states, mastered the art of ironworking, and engineered complex drainage systems to turn marshlands into fertile fields. Their merchants traded luxury goods across the Mediterranean, bringing Greek pottery, Eastern art, and foreign ideas into the heart of Italy. For the early Latins living in their mud brick huts, the Etruscans were both a terrifying threat and a model of what a civilization could become. They loomed large over the region, controlling the trade routes and casting a long shadow over the banks of the Tiber. Yet, despite their wealth and military might, the Etruscans lacked a unified nation. They were a loose confederation of independent cities, often competing with one another. It was into this fragmented world of advanced Etruscans, fierce Sabine hill tribes, and scattered Latin farmers that Rome was born. But history is not written by archaeology alone. To understand Rome, one must understand how the Romans viewed themselves. They did not believe their city was born from a simple gathering of farmers. Instead, they traced their lineage back to blood, gods, and the destruction of an ancient empire. According to Roman myth, the story did not begin in Italy, but in the burning ruins of Troy. As the city fell to the Greeks, a Trojan prince named Aeneas, the son of the goddess Venus, escaped the flames. Carrying his aging father on his back and holding his young son's hand, Aeneas fled across the Mediterranean. After years of wandering, guided by prophecy, he landed on the shores of Italy. His descendants would go on to rule a nearby kingdom called Alba Longa for generations, keeping the divine bloodline alive. Centuries later, a crisis of greed shook this royal family. A rightful king was overthrown by his ambitious brother, Amulus. To secure his stolen throne, Amulus murdered his brother's sons and forced the king's daughter, Rhea Silvia, to become a Vestal virgin, ensuring she could never bear heirs. But the gods could not be thwarted by the schemes of mortal men. Mars, the god of war, came to Rhea Silvia in secret. She gave birth to twin boys, Romulus and Remus. Terrified of their divine lineage, King Amulus ordered the infants to be drowned in the Tiber River. But the Tiber was flooded, and the servants, unwilling to commit outright murder, left the basket containing the twins in the shallow waters of a marsh. As the floodwaters receded, the basket drifted ashore, catching on the roots of a wild fig tree at the base of the Palatine Hill. It was here that a she-wolf, known to history as the Lupa, found the crying infants. Instead of devouring them, she was moved by compassion. She nursed the boys with her own milk and protected them from danger, while a woodpecker brought them food. This striking image, two human babies sustained by a wild beast, became the ultimate symbol of the Roman character, fierce, resilient, and born from nature at its most untamed. Eventually, a royal shepherd named Faustulus discovered the twins. He brought them home to his wife, and together they raised the boys as humble herders. Romulus and Remus grew up tall, strong, and natural leaders. They spent their youth fighting off bandits and protecting their neighbors, completely unaware of the royal blood flowing through their veins. When the secret of their birth was finally revealed, the brothers returned to Alba Longa. They slew the usurper Amulus and restored their grandfather to his rightful throne. But having tasted leadership, they no longer wished to live in the shadow of another kingdom. They wanted to build a city of their own, right at the place where the she-wolf had saved their lives. In 753 BC, the brothers returned to the banks of the Tiber, but immediate rivalry fractured their vision. Romulus chose the Palatine Hill as the ideal site, while Remus preferred the Aventine Hill. Unable to agree, they looked to the skies for a sign from the gods, a practice known as augury.